Hello, my name is Lynn Byers. I'm the Director of Spiritual Care and Education at Atrium Health Cleveland and Kings Mountain. And I thank Hospice for giving me the invitation to talk with you for a little bit about the pandemic and some of the impacts that it has brought to us. Uh, Domestic violence has increased since the pandemic started. Sales of alcohol have increased since the pandemic started. Attempts at suicide have increased since the pandemic started. So there is no doubt that we're feeling a great deal of stress and associated depression or just weariness with all that has come our way and all that we're having to try to endure. What this tells us is that our ability to cope with the challenges of life has been stretched very far. And it's also demonstrated that our ability to cope perhaps is not serving us as well as we would like. Coping with the life and all of the challenges that life brings us is one of the things that all we human beings have to address. And we have various levels of our coping strategies or coping mechanisms that work. So if we find ourselves feeling stressed out in terms of our own self-evaluation a good bit, or worn out, sad, or feeling tired, weary, want to sleep all the time, want to eat all the time, or can't sleep or can't eat, if we start feeling these kinds of things along with the negativity that goes with it, one of the things we can think about doing is, what can I do to cope better with what I'm having to go through? If what I'm doing is not working for me, what do I need? And oftentimes one of the first places we can look is to our family doctor or to the health department or to a clinic that will help us evaluate what's going on with our whole system and how our body, our mind, and our spirit are reacting to what is happening all around us and happening inside us. So reaching out and asking for help is always a very good idea. One of the things that we can do for ourselves is take stock over the course of our lives. What have been the things that work for us? Some people need to read a lot. Some people like to pray a lot. Some people like to take walks. One of the things that's a casualty of this particular time is that gyms and easy ways to have physical activity are closed to us. So that we're one of the people that deals with burning off stress or burning our way through depressive thoughts or feelings, we're not able to get at that the same way that we have. So we have to find different ways to get that same result, to sort of work our way through our body in a way that we can sort of de-stress ourselves and flush some of this stuff out of our system, just as we would with the sweat and the energy that we put into exercise. What works for you? What has worked for you? Is there something that you have done that you're not doing? We'll pick it up and do it again. A lot of people find that reaching out to other people and having connection with other people is a big help to them. Well, that's one of the troubling things about the pandemic, is that I think all of us feel isolated and cut off from our friends, from our family, from our church, from our minister. We are thrust into a place trying to be safe and to take care of ourselves and also to take care of others, that discourages us from being with other people. And that in and of itself is very hard for all of us, because some of us really like to just be alone and like to be left alone and like to try to work things out all by themselves. But most of us like to have somebody to talk to, like to have a sense that somebody is able to be with us. And we're Zooming and we're FaceTiming and we're talking, but human touch and human connection and face-to-face connection, or just being able to be close to other people that are important to us, we're cut off from that. That in and of itself is one of the biggest challenges that we face. So the question to ask yourself is, what kind of help do I need? If I'm feeling like this is getting to be too much for me and I'm not able to cope with it, I can't manage my thoughts and feelings, get help. Reach out. Think about the things over the course of your life that have helped you and redo some of them. People have started walking who had not been walking for a long time. People have intentionally been praying. Other people have been doing meditation or relaxation. Any number of things that help us feel like we can do something. We can get a handle on what's happening. We're not victims. We are impacted by this, but nothing has taken away our ability to try to do for ourselves what we need to do and what will help us. And I would hope that all of us would be encouraged to just seek and try to find the things that work for us. Besides the general sense of the depressive sadness and the stress associated with the pandemic, another thing that I was asked to discuss or talk about today is the difficulty that faces people who are at the end of life in the middle of this pandemic. I think anybody you talk to, anywhere you go, this particular being cut off from one another when death comes is about as hard a thing as any of us face. And there are plenty of people that are just so concerned about what's happening. Normally, when we lose someone, we want to see them, we want to touch them, we want to say things to them that are important, like I love you and I'm sorry, and any of the other things that we typically just find ourselves needing to say at that particular precious moment in our lives. And what has happened in this pandemic is that people have not been allowed to do that. They've not been allowed to touch. They've been able to see sometimes and from a distance. And this is just so very, very different from what we're used to and the way we like to do things. As a chaplain at the hospital and as all we chaplains, we look forward to being with people. We want to remind them of the resources of our faith and of our faith traditions and the things that help us face the loss of someone precious, that help us and help us realize we're not alone. So we're still being able to be with people, but we're glad of that. What is such a struggle is that we're not able to be with them, even ourselves, like we would like. Sometimes people want to have a hug or they want somebody to put an arm around them, and in the middle of this pandemic, we've been discouraged from doing those simple things. So this is a very, very challenging time in terms of how we grieve. What has happened is that we have allowed families to start coming back and visiting their loved ones, and we've allowed families to come and to be there when death has come. But it's all regimented, it's all regulated, and it's the best that we can do in a pandemic, but it's a challenge to everyone. So one of the things we would want is hope that people don't have to go through this during this pandemic, but we know that's more of a wish than a reality, because more and more folks are meeting the last days of their life in the middle of this very time. What can we do? If we're cut off from being able to do our grieving in the ways that have made sense to us, if we're able to have our funerals in our churches the way that we've liked it, if we're not able to do those things, what can we do? That has been a very, very hard thing to figure out. And people have been very creative about trying to virtually gather or gather in safe spaces. But it is so odd and it's so different that I don't think any of us feel like that it's really working or really doing what we need to do. So what can we do to recover what we need? Nothing can stop us or is stopping us from saying the things that we need to say to our loved ones. And if we are faithful people, nothing separates us from the ability to talk to God. So often we weren't able to say things that we wanted to say because we weren't able to be there. It helps some people to say, Lord, I just want you to let them know and hear this and let them know that. I can't tell them, I can't do that, but let it happen some way through your ability to connect us even when death has come. And for some people that have been experiences with that, they've been very helpful and very good for them, where they feel like I made the connection through my faith and through God. I couldn't do it face to face, but I can do it in this way. And if there are issues in your grieving, a lot of times life is not easy or simple, and the end of life is far from easy or simple in our society these days, pandemic or no pandemic. There's a lot of times we're just left with a lot of residue or things that still knocking around inside us, thoughts and feelings. And nothing is prohibiting or stopping us from saying, okay, I'm having some trouble here. I'm having difficulty with this particular aspect of my grieving, and I feel like I'm stuck. Again, reach out. Find somebody that you can talk to. Talk to your minister. Talk to a counselor. If you're a praying person, pray and talk to God and ask for God's help. So often when we say these things and we encourage people to do the things to help themselves, it feels like such a little thing to say, and it feels like, well, it doesn't hold a lot of weight. But the good news is these things work. Asking for help from other people that we trust, asking for help from professionals, exercising our faith, and talking and working our faith out with God, and working out what we need to do with God to find some peace and to feel like that we've made our way through our grief process. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you about what has happened to us and some of the ways that it has affected us in general, and specifically in terms of how we're able to grieve in 2020 with the pandemic going on. Thank you very much.